I didn't disappear because I wanted attention, and I didn't disappear because I had everything figured out, and I didn't disappear because I was suddenly successful or suddenly happy, and I didn't disappear because I stopped caring about people or life or my dreams, and I didn't disappear because I thought I was better than anyone else. I disappeared because I was tired. Tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. Tired in a way motivation quotes couldn't touch. Tired in a way people don't notice until it's too late. Tired of pretending, tired of explaining, tired of being strong, tired of waking up every day and feeling like I was already behind before the day even started, tired of smiling when I felt empty, tired of telling people I was fine when I wasn't even close. And for months, I didn't know how to explain that to anyone, so I chose silence, not because it was easy, but because it was the only thing that didn't require me to lie. Before I disappeared, everything looked normal from the outside. I was posting, I was replying, I was showing up, I was doing what I was supposed to do. At least that's what people saw. But inside, something was breaking, slowly, quietly, piece by piece. And the scary part wasn't that it was breaking, the scary part was that I didn't know when it started. I just woke up one day and realized I felt nothing and everything at the same time. My mind was loud, but my heart was empty. My body was moving, but my soul felt stuck. And every time someone asked me how I was doing, I gave the same answer: good, busy, blessed, because that's what you're supposed to say when you don't want questions you can't answer. I didn't disappear all at once. It happened gradually. First, I stopped replying quickly. Then I stopped picking calls. Then I stopped going out. Then I stopped posting. Then I stopped explaining. Then I stopped caring about explaining. Then, eventually, I stopped being seen. And most people didn't notice at first because everyone is busy. Everyone has their own life, their own problems, their own noise. And that made it easier to disappear because no one really asks twice when you say you're okay. They just accept it and move on. And honestly, I can't blame them because I was the one who taught them that lie. What people don't understand is that disappearing isn't always about running away. Sometimes it's about survival. Sometimes it's about choosing yourself when you don't even know how to save yourself yet. Sometimes it's about sitting in the quiet long enough to hear your own thoughts without everyone else's expectations drowning them out. Sometimes it's about admitting that you don't know who you are anymore and you need time to find yourself again. And that was me. Lost, confused, overwhelmed, and scared to admit it. There were days during those months when getting out of bed felt like a victory, days when brushing my teeth felt like effort, days when the smallest tasks felt heavy, days when my phone buzzed and my chest tightened because I didn't have the energy to respond, days when I stared at the ceiling wondering how I ended up feeling so far from the person I used to be, the person who dreamed big, who laughed easily, who believed things would work out. And the worst part was feeling guilty for feeling that way, because from the outside, my life didn't look broken. So I kept telling myself I had no right to feel this way, and that guilt made everything worse. I kept asking myself, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just push through? Why can everyone else handle life and you can't? Why do you feel so behind? Why do you feel like you're failing at things no one else can even see? And those questions played on repeat in my head every single day until I started believing the answers I was afraid of, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't strong enough, that maybe I wasn't meant for the dreams I once had, and that thought hurt more than anything else. So I disappeared. I stopped showing up where I felt unseen. I stopped performing happiness. I stopped pretending I had answers. I stopped trying to explain feelings I didn't fully understand myself. I pulled back, not because I hated people, but because I didn't recognize myself anymore. And I needed space to breathe without judgment, space to fail in private, space to cry without being asked what's wrong, space to sit with my thoughts without having to turn them into something inspiring or productive. During those months, I learned things no one prepares you for. I learned how lonely silence can be, but also how healing it is. I learned that rest isn't laziness and slowing down isn't failure. I learned that you can love people deeply and still need distance from them. I learned that not everyone who disappears is lost. Sometimes they're rebuilding. I learned that growth doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like pausing. Sometimes it looks like breaking down. Sometimes it looks like doing nothing at all while everything inside you rearranges itself. There were moments during those months when I wanted to come back and explain everything, to post something dramatic, to let everyone know how hard it had been. But every time I tried, the words felt wrong, too small, too shallow for something that had changed me so deeply. So I stayed quiet, and in that quiet, I faced parts of myself I had been avoiding, fears I buried, insecurities I ignored, regrets I never processed, mistakes I pretended didn't matter. And it wasn't pretty. It was uncomfortable, painful, humbling, but it was necessary because you can't heal what you refuse to acknowledge. I realized how much of my identity was tied to productivity, to validation, to being needed, to being seen. And when all of that disappeared, I felt empty because I didn't know who I was without it. And that scared me more than anything else, because if I wasn't useful or impressive or strong or inspiring, then who was I really? And that question followed me everywhere until I slowly started answering it, not with words, but with actions, with rest, with boundaries, with honesty, with learning to sit with myself without distractions. Some days I made progress, some days I went backwards, some days I felt hopeful, some days I felt completely numb. And that's the part people don't talk about. Healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, inconsistent, frustrating, and quiet. There's no applause, no announcement, no before and after picture. It's just you choosing every day to keep going, even when you're not sure where you're going and even when no one is watching. I also learned who really cared, not in a dramatic way, but in subtle ways. The people who checked in without pressure, the people who didn't demand explanations, the people who stayed even when I had nothing to offer. And I learned who only liked the version of me that was always available, always giving, always smiling. And that realization hurt, but it also freed me because it showed me where I needed boundaries and where I needed honesty. There were nights I cried, not because something specific happened, but because everything felt heavy. Nights when I questioned my purpose, nights when I felt like time was moving and I was standing still, nights when I wondered if disappearing was a mistake or if staying would have destroyed me. And every time I asked myself that question, I remembered how broken I felt before I left. And I knew deep down that disappearing wasn't quitting. It was choosing not to break completely. Slowly, without me noticing, things started to change. I started waking up with a little less weight on my chest. I started enjoying small things again: music, quiet mornings, walks without my phone, laughter that didn't feel forced. And those small moments reminded me that I wasn't gone. I was just resting, healing, becoming. And that gave me the strength to keep going, even when the future still felt uncertain. I didn't come back because everything was perfect. I didn't come back because I suddenly had all the answers. I came back because I learned that disappearing doesn't mean you stop existing. It means you stop performing. And when you stop performing, you can finally hear your own voice again. And mine was telling me that it was okay to move at my own pace, that it was okay to change, that it was okay to outgrow versions of myself that no longer fit. If you're wondering why I disappeared for months, this is why. I needed time to remember who I was without the noise, without the pressure, without the expectations. I needed time to rebuild myself, quietly, honestly, imperfectly. And I'm still not finished. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still figuring things out. But now I'm doing it with more compassion for myself, and that makes all the difference. And if you're listening to this and you've been feeling the same way, if you've been tired in a way sleep doesn't fix, if you've been smiling while breaking inside, if you've been thinking about disappearing, let me tell you something. Disappearing doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you don't care. Sometimes it means you care so much that you're willing to step back and heal, instead of pretending you're okay until you collapse. And there is strength in that, even if no one sees it yet. I disappeared to survive. I disappeared to heal. I disappeared to find myself again. And now I'm slowly coming back, not as the person I was before, but as someone more honest, more grounded, more aware of my limits and my worth. And if I ever disappear again, know that it won't be because I gave up. It will be because I chose myself. And sometimes that's the bravest thing you can do.